Everyone laughed at XLM. They called it a relic, a ghost chain, dead weight from 2017 that somehow still lingered on CoinMarketCap. No NFT boom, no meme run, no billionaire endorsements, no attention. They said it missed the bull run. Irrelevant, obsolete. Why would anyone still hold XLM when Solana is pumping 30% in a day? That's what they said. But they weren't paying attention to the real story. They weren't looking at the fundamentals. They weren't following the money. Because while the rest of crypto was chasing hype, Stellar was quietly embedding itself into the financial bloodstream of the global economy. Not on Twitter, not on TikTok, but in the back-end systems of real-world finance. We're not talking about theoretical white papers or speculative DEXs. We're talking about live integrations, infrastructure that's up and running today. Regulated stablecoins, central bank pilots, trade finance corridors from Africa to Asia, cross-border settlements with fiat ramps on both ends. And no, not on Ethereum, not on Solana, not even on Polygon. All of this is happening on Stellar. While the crowd was busy chasing the next 100x pump, Stellar was positioning itself as the plumbing for a new financial era, compliant, interoperable, and built to scale with governments, fintechs, and institutions. It's not flashy, but it's functional. And in the world of global finance, functionality beats hype every single time. So if you're still ignoring XLM because it hasn't moved yet, if you're still measuring utility based on influencer tweets or Reddit threads, you're not just late, you're about to miss one of the most asymmetric plays in all of crypto. Because here's the truth. By the time the headlines hit, by the time CNBC is talking about the Stellar revolution, it'll already be priced in. The explosion won't give you time to react. It'll leave you scrambling to catch up. Smash that subscribe button if you're tired of surface-level noise and want crypto commentary that actually makes you smarter. This is Be Crypto Smart. We don't chase pumps. We study power plays. And XLM? It's not just a power play. It's the quiet juggernaut the market still hasn't figured out. The joke everyone made, and the $10 trillion problem no one was solving. Let's rewind the tape. It's 2021. Ethereum gas fees are going parabolic. Dogecoin is headlining SNL. Solana's breaking TPS records. NFT profile pics are selling for six figures. And every YouTuber with a ring light is telling you they found the next 100x gem. And Stellar? Silent. Forgotten. No hype. No memes. No all-time highs. Just building. Quietly. To most retail investors, Stellar looked like a ghost chain. No flashy rebrands. No layer 2 hype trains. No Discord cults. Just an old protocol sitting quietly on page 40 of the crypto rankings. But here's what nobody was paying attention to. Stellar was mapping out the $10 trillion elephant in the room. Not DeFi, not NFTs, not GameFi. The broken, archaic, deeply inefficient back end of the global financial system. Let's put some numbers on it. $2.5 trillion trade finance gap. Source: World Bank. That's how much global trade is being held back simply because capital can't move fast or trustlessly enough across borders. $250+ trillion in projected cross-border payment volume by 2027. That's not theoretical, it's what the financial system already has queued up. $800 billion in annual remittances, with an average fee of 6.5% for the world's poorest populations. And trillions more lost in friction, delays, foreign exchange spreads, compliance duplication, and old-school correspondent banking bloat. Now zoom out. All of this still runs on rails built in the 1970s. The SWIFT network isn't money movement. It's just messaging between banks. And those messages trigger layers of intermediaries. Each one takes a cut. Each one introduces risk, delay, and regulatory drag. Money doesn't move. Paperwork does. And the world just puts up with it. But Stellar didn't. While the market was obsessed with staking APYs and gas wars, Stellar locked onto the real prize, fixing the broken circulatory system of global finance. And here's the punchline. Stellar didn't try to bulldoze the system. It didn't throw stones at regulators. It didn't fork into a Deegan-friendly chain and chase casino liquidity. Instead, it did something much smarter. It built a chain that institutions could actually use. It built for interoperability, not isolation. For compliance, not chaos. For settlement, not speculation. That's the twist no one saw coming. Because when you're trying to rewire the world's financial plumbing, you don't want noise. You want silence. You want precision. You want Stellar. And the tech stack? Totally overlooked by most of crypto Twitter. A federated Byzantine agreement consensus model, fast, energy efficient, and built for cross-border trust. Native asset issuance that makes stablecoins and CBDCs plug and play. Built-in compliance hooks for KYC/AML. Sub 5-second finality with minimal fees, not just cheaper than Ethereum, but dramatically more predictable. This wasn't DeFi casino energy. It was enterprise-grade infrastructure, sitting in plain sight while everyone chased pump and dumps. The result? While influencers were minting JPGs and spinning up dog coins, Stellar was sitting at the negotiating table with the United Nations, MoneyGram, IBM, central banks in Asia and the Pacific, and fintech companies building real-world applications on Stellar rails. So yeah, Stellar didn't moon in 2021. But here's what it did do. It laid the foundations for a trillion-dollar reset. And that's the difference between a pump and a protocol that powers global value flow. Because in this space, there are chains that chase headlines. And there are chains that solve trillion-dollar problems behind the scenes. XLM isn't just a coin. It's the toll token for a new financial highway that's already being built. And most people missed it because they were too busy laughing. Soroban, the silent engine behind Stellar's institutional takeover. If Stellar is the rails for a new global financial system, Soroban is the engine driving the institutional freight train. And let's be clear, this isn't just some late-to-the-party smart contract add-on. Soroban is a surgical upgrade, designed not to chase the trends of crypto, but to meet the demands of the real-world financial sector. While Ethereum drowns in gas spikes, and Solana flexes TPS like a gym bro on pre-workout, Soroban is quietly rewriting what smart contracts can actually do for institutions. It's not here for cartoon apes, Ponzi staking, or Deegan casino games. It's built for infrastructure, low fees, predictable gas costs, deep native integration with Stellar's core ledger. That's not cosmetic. That's foundational. Let's break it down. Ethereum? It's a general-purpose machine, wildly flexible but also wildly unstable under load. The minute anything gets popular, fees spike, and predictability goes out the window. Not ideal when you're handling regulated finance or cross-border capital flow. Solana? Sure, it's fast, but it's also brittle. One bug can freeze the entire chain. That's not a good look when you're building mission-critical applications for governments or banks. Soroban flips the script. It's not trying to be everything to everyone. It's built for a very specific class of applications. Financial grade, compliance-ready, borderless automation. And that's exactly what institutions need. Think about what happens when a multinational wants to tokenize trade finance. You don't need permissionless chaos, you need structured logic with clear conditions. You don't need liquidity farming, you need deterministic outcomes. You don't want to worry about gas wars, you want predictable cost modeling at scale. That's Soroban's lane. It brings together the programmability of smart contracts with the stability of Stellar's consensus and compliance-first architecture. That combo? It doesn't exist anywhere else in the crypto ecosystem. Now enter Palago Labs, a fintech outfit that saw the opportunity and moved fast. They're not building another DeFi clone. They're launching tokenized debt products designed for cross-border issuance and settlement. On-chain escrows for import, export operations, compliant, transparent, automatic. Structured trade finance contracts with logic embedded for compliance, collateral, and maturity. And they're doing it directly on Soroban. Not as a testnet demo. Not in a sandbox. In production with real finance partners. This isn't some DAO governance token or fantasy yield farm. This is real-world finance, rebuilt from the ground up using Soroban's logic layer, and it's already happening beneath the radar. And here's the kicker. Every Soroban contract execution requires XLM. Not optionally. Not can use ETH or Matic or gas tokens. Only XLM. So as more fintechs, institutions, and even governments start using Soroban to move real money, real assets, and real obligations, XLM becomes the toll token powering every transaction. Not in theory. In practice. Scale. This is where things get serious. Because when you stop thinking about XLM as a speculative asset and start seeing it as settlement infrastructure, the price action starts to make a whole lot more sense. Right now, the demand isn't speculative. It's structural. And it's growing. That's why Soroban matters. It's not here to pump price, it's here to power systems. And when enough systems depend on you, the market eventually notices. The institutional flood you're not seeing, but can't ignore. Let's break the illusion. Everyone expects the institutional phase of crypto to arrive like a Super Bowl ad, fireworks, CNBC headlines, Larry Fink on stage, ETF green lights, and billions flooding in overnight. But that's not how real infrastructure gets adopted. Stellar's doing it differently. No hype, no theatrics, just deep surgical integration into the plumbing of global finance. And here's what almost nobody sees. MoneyGram is live. This isn't some letter of intent or test pilot. Stellar is already powering MoneyGram's global cash-to-crypto ramp in over 180 countries. That means someone in the Philippines, Mexico, Nigeria, or Ukraine can walk into a physical location, deposit cash, and receive USDC on the Stellar network in minutes. That's not potential. That's production. USDC corridors via Circle. Through partnerships with Circle, Stellar is enabling real-time, low-cost stablecoin remittances across borders. Not theory. Not a DeFi farm. Actual, compliant money movement with KYC and anti-fraud infrastructure baked in. United Nations chose Stellar. That's right, the UN is distributing aid on-chain, directly to mobile wallets using Stellar's rails. Not through Bitcoin. Not through Ethereum. Stellar. Why? Because it works even in underbanked regions where infrastructure is fragile. This is global public infrastructure, but it's being rebuilt on a private, interoperable, programmable ledger. But we're just getting started. Palau's sovereign stablecoin? That's live. Not a pilot. A government-backed currency built natively on Stellar, complete with central bank approval, issuance logic, and operational clarity. And while that news barely made a blip in retail circles, it made central banks around the world pay attention. Because here's the real institutional story. It's not about splashy ETF headlines. It's about compliance, auditability, settlement finality, and global scale. That's Stellar's lane. And the integrations are stacking up behind the scenes. Fintechs are onboarding. Banks are testing corridors. Governments are experimenting with stablecoin issuance. Regulators are learning how on-chain KYC and AML work through Stellar's open-source toolkits. This isn't hype, this is infrastructure onboarding. And it's happening without fanfare, because that's how real adoption looks. While everyone else is chasing pumps, Stellar is embedding itself into the core logic of future finance. And here's what most people miss. Institutions don't want volatility. They want predictability. They don't want chaos. They want compliance, reliability, and scalability. In other words, they want boring. And boring is exactly what Stellar excels at. Because when you're settling remittances, automating compliance, or issuing a national stablecoin, you don't want the chain that had 17 outages last month. You want the one that's been battle-tested, quietly running since 2014 with near-zero downtime. Stellar isn't trying to go viral. It's trying to go universal. So if you're still watching the wrong headlines, you're missing the real wave. XLM is becoming the default bridge between fiat, stablecoins, and on-chain value. Quietly, systematically, irreversibly. Why XLM's price doesn't move until it explodes. Let's stop sugarcoating it. The crypto market thrives on noise, price spikes, meme tokens, influencer hype, and dramatic headlines. And in that chaos, Stellar's silence has been mistaken for irrelevance. XLM's dead. Nothing's happening. It missed the pump. That's what the echo chamber says. But that's not the truth. While the herd was chasing candles, Stellar was laying cable. Let's talk about what really happened behind the scenes. Regulatory alignment. Stellar didn't fight regulators, it built for them. It worked hand in hand with compliance firms, integrated identity layers, and created one of the most audit-friendly blockchains in the world. Smart contracts engineered for institutions. With Soroban, Stellar didn't just copy Ethereum's model. It created a deterministic, low-fee, gas-stable smart contract environment designed specifically for finance workflows. That means compliance logic, asset issuance, and real-world use, not casino-style DeFi. Cross-border liquidity rails. Stellar built direct cash-to-crypto pathways with MoneyGram, powered stablecoin corridors with Circle, and enabled sovereign currency issuance for governments like Palau. That's not sleeping. That's scaling. But scaling doesn't show up on a chart until it does. And when it does, it's violent. Why? Because when price discovery finally catches up to utility, the revaluation is immediate and aggressive. Here's the part that most people miss. XLM isn't just a coin. It's a toll token for an entire multi-trillion-dollar network. Let's unpack that. Every transaction on Stellar requires XLM. Whether it's sending USDC from Nigeria to the Philippines, issuing a stablecoin, settling a trade finance deal on Soroban, or receiving humanitarian aid on-chain, XLM is the fuel. That's embedded demand. And it doesn't depend on hype, it depends on usage. And that usage, it's already scaling behind the scenes. More governments are experimenting with Stellar for digital currency issuance. More fintechs are building back-end settlement systems using XLM. More stablecoins are going live on Stellar's network, USDC, EURC, and others. This isn't about going viral. It's about becoming invisible infrastructure used by everyone, noticed by no one, until price starts moving. And when it moves, it won't crawl, it'll jump. Because liquidity gaps plus real demand equals explosive revaluation. This is not a moonshot. This is a systemic upgrade to the world's financial operating system, and Stellar is building it with surgical precision. And when the narrative finally shifts, when regulators endorse it, when institutions announce full integrations, when the world realizes that Stellar has been powering the financial rails of tomorrow while no one was watching, XLM won't just pump. It'll reprice permanently, because this isn't about hype cycles. It's about owning the rails that move money at scale. And here's the final punchline. Everyone laughed at XLM because it didn't behave like the rest of the market. But that's exactly why it's poised to lead it. Be early, or be history. If you've made it this far, you already know this isn't hype. It's happening. Quietly. Systematically. And when the rest of the market finally sees what XLM is powering under the hood, they won't be early. They'll be exit liquidity. This is the part where most people get left behind. They wait for the headlines. They wait for the influencers. They wait until everyone else is already in. And by then, the upside is gone. But you're here now. You're ahead of the curve. So ask yourself, are you building before the world wakes up? Or just watching when it's too late to act? Because by the time the mainstream realizes Stellar has become critical financial infrastructure, the price won't be cheap. The opportunity won't be obvious. And the signal will be buried in hype. So here's your move. Smash that subscribe button if you're done chasing noise and ready to follow real infrastructure plays. Tap like if you're stacking knowledge, not just tokens. And stay locked in with Be Crypto Smart, where we don't chase pumps. We break down the power plays before they explode. No fluff, no hype, just straight signal. Let's keep building.